This is where we take everything we've learned so far and bring it together. In this video, we'll talk about what it takes to build the mindset of a pro in what is an extremely challenging and competitive area. Becoming a professional bettor isn't just about making bets. It's about having a disciplined, analytical, and mentally tough approach to every aspect of your betting operation. Let's hit a few bullet points as pieces of advice. First thing is going to be the long term. Betting is a long-term game, and the long term is really long. Professional betting is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. You really do need to keep a career-long perspective. Even the best bettors will find themselves on a losing streak of weeks or even months. If you find yourself in this position and you're struggling mentally, you can stick with it, or you can consider shifting your focus to another sport, or even waiting for the next season to reassess your strategies. It's also a good time to look into some promos and bonuses because when you're losing, that's when those are most often available and can be a good way to recoup some losses. Remember, every professional goes through ups and downs. The key is not to get bogged down by short-term losses, but to focus on the long term. And the long term really is long. Think in terms of years, not days. Second thing, planning and goal setting. As a professional, you have to approach betting with extremely thorough planning and clear goal setting. Outline what you're willing to do to win, which might include taking advantage of promotions, arbitrage, or narrowing your focus to a really small niche like college football player props only. Treat your operation like a business. Set your income goals and how you're going to meet those goals. Then revisit them quarterly to make sure you're on track. Third piece of advice, mental discipline. Significant mental and emotional energy goes into sports betting. If you don't manage this well, it can lead to mistakes or even something bettors call tilting, where you're making totally reckless decisions based on your emotional state. If you're falling into the trap of chasing your losses out of frustration, you're in a really dangerous place. Also, think about the amount of time you spend watching games. Sometimes, not watching the game can help you stay disconnected from the emotional roller coaster that comes with the back and forth nature of some of those games. Fourth thing, analytical thinking. Pro bettors have a very analytical mindset when they're looking at odds, calculating probabilities, and making decisions. Pros always have a set number and price in mind. You'll hear non-pros say things like, I like the over in this game. But what does that really mean? If the total is set at 40.5, would they still like the over if the total moved up to 41.5? What if the total moved all the way to 90? They never have a set answer to this question. So an amateur will say, I like the over. But a professional will say, I like the over at 40.5 up to minus 115. They have a number and a price where they have calculated an advantage. When that advantage goes away, they won't bet it anymore. An amateur will probably bet the over no matter what. The biggest thing to remember in betting is that you're working with very thin margins. There just aren't that many advantages out there, so every cent on the price you get matters. We'll revisit this concept multiple times in later courses. Fifth piece of advice is about risk management. Keep in mind also that there's a good amount of risk that comes with this. You need a good tolerance for reasonable risks, taking well-calculated, small risks when you have an advantage, but not being overly risky or impulsive. Understand that not all bets can possibly win, and learn how to manage your bankroll effectively to handle the huge variance that's involved in sports betting. Keep your sports betting bankroll separate from the rest of your money to minimize the risk to your personal finances. Sixth piece of advice, handling criticism. In sports betting, whether that's professional or not, expect to face resistance and criticism. This is especially true on social media like Twitter. You'll find that the majority of people will discourage you or just plain insult you rather than have a reasonable conversation or try to help you out. It's important not to let that bother you and consider where those criticisms are coming from. Usually, it's from people who don't want any competition, so they're trying to limit access to sports betting. Once people build knowledge, they have a tendency to act like they've always known what they do. They quickly forget that they were a beginner in this space once too. Seventh thing, motivation and improvement. It's really hard to stay motivated and continuously improve your betting process. I found that a lot of people who bet on sports are competitive. That's good because betting is something where you need to be competitive. Instead of getting down on yourself for losses, or even worse, trying to chase your losses, you can channel that frustration into motivation to improve your process. Losing and winning can both motivate you to learn. So use them to push yourself to reevaluate your processes, maybe read something new about betting strategy, or even take an online course. If you can't stay emotionally neutral during winning and losing streaks, and you can't channel the frustration into process improvement, very least you should do is try to take something away from the bets you made. Assess your losses honestly. Ask yourself whether a loss was truly due to randomness, or if it was actually a flaw in your strategy. All right, my last piece of advice is consider not betting. A lot of people would probably be surprised to know that my best piece of advice in sports betting is don't do it. If you're just starting out, there's a really steep learning curve to become profitable. Meanwhile, people around you are getting better and better at sports betting, so the learning curve keeps getting steeper. Once you do start winning, that's not even really the hard part. You'll start getting limited. You'll have to argue your bet slips with the books, and you might not even get paid out sometimes. And all this time, you'll be dealing with a gambling community that isn't always supportive. So this is a really tough business, and ultimately, winning isn't all that fulfilling, at least not for me. The losses tend to hurt a lot more than the wins feel good. So take some time, think about whether this is something you really want to dive into. Okay, let's recap. It takes a lot to think like a professional bettor. Remember that betting is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes planning and goal setting, a lot like running a business. You need mental and emotional discipline and an analytical mindset. You also need to be good with risk management, handling criticism, and through it all, stay motivated to keep improving. Knowing all of this, consider that this might not be for you. The learning curve is high, and you need to pay for your mistakes with your money. If you decide you're up for the challenge, though, consider moving on to the next course by enrolling in the basics course or any other course offered at Bettor, depending on your interests. For now, that is everything you need to know to think like a pro.